Hi, first graders and first grade parents. Miss Pagan here. Today is Friday, and we're going to talk about what we're going to do for writing today. Today, we're going to be finishing the writing that we started yesterday. Yesterday, we started an informational writing in the form of a letter to incoming first graders for next year. So students got to draw a picture of things that they did this year in first grade. They also got to write their opening, their two topic sentences, and their first detail sentence. Today, students will be working on their second detail sentence, third detail sentence, their conclusion, and their closing. So students should have out their writing that they started yesterday so that they can continue their work on it today. Yesterday, for the first detail, students were supposed to give a tip or a strategy or something that first graders should know about for them to have a really successful year. Today, for detail 2, students are going to give another idea. These ideas could consist of things that students could do in the classroom while they're learning. They could consist of organization. They could consist of things that they might need to know for the cafeteria, for the library, for the playground, anything that they want. They get to choose. So students will need to choose a sentence starter, next, also, in addition, or then. And then they'll need to share out loud what their tip is for the incoming first graders. After they've shared that tip out loud, they can go ahead and pick up right where they left off yesterday. Wherever they finished their first detail sentence, they can continue their second detail sentence. They'll need to make sure that they do their 4 quick checks, checking for a capital letter at the beginning, finger space in between each word, period at the end, and a comma after transition words, and then whisper reading to make sure that it makes sense and that all their letters are on the line. After they've done their second detail sentence, they can move on to their third detail sentence. They can choose last, lastly, or finally. Again, giving one tip or strategy for an incoming first grader to know to have a really successful first grade year. After they've chosen their sentence starter, they can share their idea, their sentence out loud to make sure that it makes sense. And then they can go ahead and write their third detail sentence after their second detail sentence. And then, of course, remember to do their 4 quick checks at the end. After our third detail sentence, students will be ready to do their conclusion. Conclusion is kind of a nice way to wrap up the writing. I gave a sentence frame, and so students are only going to have to think of one word, one adjective to fill in the blank. It says, I hope you have a blank year. So students should think of an adjective to describe what kind of year they hope the incoming first graders have. Maybe it's an amazing year. Maybe it's a fantastic or an incredible year. Students get to choose their word. Then they can copy down the sentence frame with their word included, and they even get to use an exclamation point at the end of this sentence for today because we want to say it with excitement. So after students have thought about their adjective, shared their sentence out loud, they can go ahead and write their conclusion on the line. Then we're going to be ready for our closing today. So the closing of a letter is where we wrap it up and make sure that the person who's reading it knows who wrote the letter. So students can choose a closing. They can choose from, love, or sincerely. So wherever students stop their writing for their conclusion sentence, we want to make sure that they go down to the next line. They want to go down to the next blank line so that they can finish with their closing. We want to make sure that they have space. So if they don't have any more space on this side, they can go ahead and even turn the page and make sure that they have a blank line. So they can choose, again, one of the closing words. They get to write their closing word in a comma, and then underneath the closing word is where they can write their name. They can again write either their first name and last name or just their first name. It's up to them. After they've written their closing, the letter should be complete. So by the end of today, students should have their picture, they should have their opening, their 2 topic sentences, a detail sentence from yesterday. They should have their detail 2 and detail 3, a conclusion, and a closing. It's definitely a longer writing for the past 2 days than normal. But we would really appreciate it, the whole first grade team would appreciate it, if you would like to send your letter in to the teachers. We would love to be able to have these to share with our incoming students for next year. So if you're able to have a picture taken and then email it to your child's teacher, again, we would love to have a documentation of this because we love to share these letters with our incoming first graders. So if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or your child's teacher, and happy writing!